Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today. And we're going to start here with yet another rumor that talks about an upcoming dedicated PlayStation handheld. This is something that I think is intriguing a lot of PlayStation fans because we know that Sony has a pretty strong history with handheld consoles, with the original PSP, of course the PlayStation Vita, but most recently with the PlayStation Portal, and it seems like this is going to be the next true successor, I guess you could say, to the PlayStation Vita. So this is being reported by PlayStation Lifestyle. They say every day it seems we are getting closer to actually getting another PlayStation handheld console. The latest update regarding the console corroborates previous rumors of its existence as well as its launch window. On NeoGAF, insider Heisenberg FX4 claims a full-blown PlayStation handheld is in the works. They do iterate that this would not fall within the PlayStation Portal pricing, which is currently $200 US, and will launch somewhere around the PlayStation 6's launch. Last month, leaker Kepler L2 confirmed the existence of the PlayStation handheld. They claimed that it would not be as powerful as the PS5, but it would be backwards compatible with the console at launch, which they confirmed will be part of the PlayStation 6 family of devices. And so, yeah, this is definitely worth going over here because we've been hearing rumblings and rumors of a new dedicated PlayStation handheld for quite some time now, and it seems like more insiders and people with good track records are chiming in and basically coming out and saying, yes, right now this is something that Sony is developing behind the scenes. And it is worth noting that when we heard from Kepler L2 last month, he said that basically this handheld is going to land somewhere between the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S in terms of what we can expect performance-wise. So because of that, my assumption is that it's probably not going to play many PlayStation 6 games natively, and in that regard, it's going to probably do remote play for PS6 games, but the idea is you will have access to the majority of your PlayStation 5 library. It's also worth keeping in mind that going into the PlayStation 6, it's highly likely that most games for at least the first few years are going to be cross-gen, and so because of that, there is a chance that they could actually downscale far enough to be able to properly run on this dedicated handheld from PlayStation. The other thing that's worth noting here is that it seems Sony's going to try to make it as easy as possible for developers to be able to scale their games with this handheld, where, you know, again, we're hearing from insiders that it's really not going to take much work, maybe just like one small patch to get it running smoothly on this hardware. And the final thing I want to mention here that I think all but confirms that, yeah, we're going to be getting another proper handheld from Sony is that during the recent corporate strategy and earnings announcement presentation, Sony did acknowledge that the PlayStation Portal has been a pretty significant success for them, an unexpected success. They're very happy about that, and they're going to continue to support it. And yeah, so there we go. I'm going to be really curious to see what you guys have to say about this. Let me know down in the comments below. And before we move on to the next topic, I do want to ask you if you're enjoying the content or if you're finding it informative, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're on our way to 102,000 subscribers, which is actually crazy to think about. But we're talking about Ghost of Yotei once again. We have a report from Push Square. It says, if you've been keeping up with Ghost of Tsushima and Ghost of Yotei developer Sucker Punch over the years, you'll know that the studio takes its work very seriously. Although Ghost of Tsushima wasn't utterly grounded in historical accuracy, taking heavy inspiration from samurai cinema, Sucker Punch still made sure to respect the culture that it was trying to portray. The result was an open-world title that went down incredibly well with many Japanese players. Jin's revenge-driven adventure was both a critical and commercial success in the country that it's set within. Naturally, the developer wants to repeat this feat with this year's Ghost of Yotei, and in a new and intriguing post on the PlayStation blog, director Nate Fox goes into some detail regarding the team's approach to recreating Japan's cultural identity as well as its often varied landscapes. The best part of working on Ghost of Tsushima and Ghost of Yotei has been getting the opportunity to go on reference gathering trips to Japan, Fox admits right off the bat. As an American, I had primarily seen the country through the lens of beloved classic samurai movies, but actually going there, feeling the wind on your face, smelling pine forests, and meeting locals is deeply inspiring. Indeed, Sucker Punch has spoken of these all-important reference trips before and how crucial they ended up being in the first game's success. Everyone from Sucker Punch that went on those reference gathering trips came back to the studio with a driving passion to bring a sense of authenticity to our fictional depiction of these real-life places, Fox continues. We felt that by listening to our cultural advisors and by doing research, we could deliver a respectful representation of what made Tsushima so special, to deliver a feeling of authenticity and believability to our fictional story. For Ghost of Yotei, we're doing the same thing. Of course, Ghost of Yotei takes place several hundred years after its predecessor, and as the name suggests, it's set around Mount Yotei in Hokkaido, as opposed to the island of Tsushima. Fox comments, it was the perfect place to tell Atsu's tale, a warrior so driven by revenge that locals start to believe she's an Anryo walking the land. If you're going to tell a ghost story, do it in a dramatic location. The landscape spoke to us, and we've done our best to capture the spirit of it in our fictional version of the island. But that wasn't all we learned while on this trip. As a bunch of Americans, we knew how ignorant we were about Japanese culture. To help start to solve that problem, we met with a wealth of knowledgeable individuals and visited important cultural sites. The article concludes, teasing more insight at a later date. So I thought that this was worth taking a moment to cover because obviously there's a lot of hype and excitement for Ghost of Yotei, and I assume we're going to see even more of it leading up to its launch. And the location does look incredible, and I don't think anybody has any doubt that, Sucker Punch is going to, not be able to capture the same essence and authenticity and believability with Ghost of Yotei that they did with Tsushima. But it is really cool to kind of hear how passionate they are about really taking this seriously, and it's of utmost importance to them. When you consider that Ghost of Tsushima was praised very significantly for its accuracy and the way it depicted the culture in Japan, they're probably going to do just as good of a job, if not an even better job, the second time around. Moving on to the next topic, we have another update on Death Stranding 2. This is coming from Games Radar. They say we already knew that Death Stranding 2 was going to be pretty different to its predecessor in terms of how it handles combat, but director Hideo Kojima agrees that the sequel actually feels somewhat similar to another one of his games, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. In the latest issue of Edge Magazine 411, it's noted that the Death Stranding sequel feels a bit like a modern update to the 2015 Metal Gear Solid installment, and Kojima concurs. Quote, I felt that myself when I played the game, end quote. He continues, comparing the feeling of coming home in Death Stranding 2's ship, or to Death Stranding 2's ship, the DHV Magellan, to a stealth game. When you return to your bed on the Magellan, it's the same feeling as returning to the plant in Metal Gear, he says, referencing to the home base, or mother base, in the 2015 game. Edge points to the VR challenges you can play Death Stranding 2 when hanging out at its bases, noting how similar they feel to Metal Gear's own VR missions. What's more, some sound effects are very familiar, which I love that. It's not the first time that Kojima has mentioned Metal Gear Solid when discussing the Death Stranding sequel. He recently noted that the idea of acquainting players with a gameplay concept in an initial game and then giving them more freedoms in the second, as Metal Gear Solid 1 did with its stealth before making it a little easier to use weapons in Metal Gear Solid 2. It was the same for Death Stranding. There aren't many games about delivery, so we first had to get people accustomed to that first. He explained at the time, for the sequel, we wanted to allow players that want to fight to do so more freely. So, yeah, want to continue to cover Death Stranding leading up to its launch, and man, this is what I like to hear. The Phantom Pain was an incredible game, a masterpiece. Some of the best gameplay out there, still holds up today, and to hear that playing Death Stranding 2 kind of harkens back to that and feels very similar, I don't know, man. I'm really starting to think that Death Stranding 2, we got a real winner on our hands here this year with this game. But moving on to the next topic, we're talking about the situation regarding Marathon and the plagiarism. We actually have an update from Forbes, specifically Paul Tassi, who's been in contact with some sources internally at Bungie, and man, it is not good. Apparently, they are considering delaying this game, which is absolutely going to have to happen, considering prior to this situation, there was already talk of, hey, maybe delay this game because it needs a lot of work. Now you have this going on. There's no way this game should, come out this year. But apparently, right now, the morale is in what is being described as free fall. Quote, the vibes have never been worse, end quote. So the team is just in a bad place right now. Sony and Bungie's legal teams are sorting through this, and they're actually auditing the game, basically going through the entire game, looking it over, and nobody knows how long this is going to take. On top of all that, it seems that Bungie is just basically giving the same explanation to their teams, saying that it was one ex-employee. But again, that just looks horrible, and it looks like you're scapegoating when this has happened multiple times, and it just seems like they're trying to avoid accountability. And it says here there are not even hints or jokes about a delay from the September release date. With that said, it is entirely possible, if not likely, those conversations are happening privately between higher-ups at Sony and Bungie leadership. It says it's unclear what the plan is to launch this game in a, quote, now actively hostile environment, end quote. And it's been revealed that Bungie already altered their June plans, like they had a big roadmap for June and how they were going to market the game. That's already been scrapped. So the situation is a cluster, right? And in my opinion, Sony needs to take complete control of Bungie, because it has become abundantly clear that Bungie has no idea what they are doing here. I don't understand how we are witnessing a game go from players are very interested because it's a new title from Bungie and it's something different from Bungie, to we get the official reveal and the alpha. Now it becomes a 50-50 game. Some people are like, maybe it'll be good. A lot of other people are like, I don't know, this ain't it. We go from that to now people want to see this game fail because of the situation. It's actually kind of insane. And I think it just highlights, not to sound like a broken record, how much of a mistake it really was for Sony to acquire Bungie. Obviously, I hope things can turn around. I don't want to see, a game fail necessarily. Like, I'm never rooting for that, but it just really seems like Bungie has no idea what they're doing. And so I hope Sony can kind of wrangle this in and figure something out. But I had to be sure to give you guys this update, and I'll continue to keep you updated when we learn more. But guys, that's going to do it for the video today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.